And the first thing I'm going to do is explain to you the psychological impact that the fact this person isn't texting you is having on you. I will explain it to you so that you can process it correctly and help you relieve much of the anxiety you are currently experiencing. Then, of course, we will evaluate what that person is thinking or not thinking, what they believe, what they are going to do, and what is the most strategic approach. Don't worry. But the first thing is to understand what is happening to you. Because there is a big psychological difference between someone taking the time to communicate their intentions to you, saying, look, for whatever reason, for reasons X, or even without giving you reasons, letting you know that they don't want to communicate anymore. And suddenly, overnight, you stop hearing from them. Why? The first thing that will obviously happen is that by not being aware of their intentions, you will be in a state of waiting for a while. And this is normal. Of course, if no one has told me that you and I are going to stop talking and we used to communicate, we had a routine. And now we will see more cases because obviously the time we have been communicating influences this. Whether this is limited to written communication or we are having dates, seeing each other, if we have a pseudo relationship or even sometimes a relationship. Because unfortunately nowadays, even in that scenario, this can happen where suddenly you stop hearing from them. Or even this person blocks you. What happens is that if they block you, let's say here that the waiting, other factors come into play here that we will talk about now, but not the waiting, because the blocking itself indicates their intentions, right? But when this person says absolutely nothing and you suddenly don't hear from them, obviously hours pass and something inside you starts to get uneasy. Something in you starts to suspect. Something is wrong. What happens? Why don't I know? But still, that feeling of waiting might be prolonged for quite some time. Because I repeat, since you have neither reasons nor have they communicated their intentions, at first, for quite a while, you will play with things. Your brain will understand, it will start to speculate about what is happening, and will play with hopes like something has happened to this person, they will arrive with a justified reason, at any moment they will write to me, they are waiting for that, right? So the fact that this person doesn't say anything to you will first put you in a very anxious and unpleasant waiting situation. But that wait, as if it weren't already unpleasant enough in itself, you have to add that by not understanding why, because this person hasn't given you any kind of justification, obviously your brain will want to understand what's happening. And then it will be speculating about what could have happened. And it will normally tend to want to find that explanation in our behavior. When the explanation for why this person has stopped communicating, which we will see later, may have to do with something we have done or not. Or it may have nothing to do with it. But we usually won't consider that there could be another variable beyond this person's connection with us. And then, of course, we will have to review what was the last thing we talked about, what happened in the last few days, if we notice any change in their behavior, what we might have done wrong. We are going to blame ourselves. Frankly speaking, we are going to blame ourselves and enter a loop of obsessive thoughts, which will lead us to believe that this really is affecting us so much. This anxious waiting, thinking about what might have happened, right? Let's say that all this discomfort is somewhat an illusion of how much the absence of this person affects us. Because if that same person for whom you feel this way takes and tells you, hey, look, for whatever reason, I have no intention of continuing to communicate, thank you for everything, you would be sad. But you wouldn't be experiencing it like that. So of course, this mental confusion, this mental fog, our brain will always tend to want to fill in gaps, leading you to believe that your feeling is greater. And now it combines with something. That will also happen, adding insult to injury, and it has a very negative effect on self-esteem. That's why I always ask, please don't just leave without a word. It's not that hard to communicate or talk to someone else. Another very negative effect it has on self-esteem is that the fact that this person doesn't come to give you an explanation, what it does to you is that it completely invalidates what you had, right? as if implying, I don't see it as that important. And also, above all, it shows great disdain because they have zero emotional consideration for you, right? It's like you feel that with their actions, they are showing you that they don't care at all about how you might feel, right? So, of course, it's very painful because it's a rejection that we truly experience as a genuine disdain from the other person, in which we feel that our feelings, what we have experienced, and everything that has happened is completely invalidated in the eyes of that person and makes us feel very miserable. I mean, and really without being at fault for it, right? It's like, why do I have to feel this way, right? What have I done? We can say the feeling you have is, what have I done to deserve such a great disdain from you? I don't understand it. Okay, well, if that's exactly how you're probably feeling, I want you to please listen to me because I'm going to tell you some things you need to understand at this point. And believe me, I'm not saying them to comfort you, but because they are true. That you are experiencing this in the way we've described is absolutely normal. Let's say that these are normal psychological processes that are triggered in you because that's how our mind works. And it also makes sense and is logical. But I tell you, truly, that people who simply stop talking don't do it. Because what they might have experienced with us was indeed relevant, did matter, or they were involved. Nor do they do it because they see us as insignificant and don't care about us at all. No. In most cases, what really happens is that they are emotionally very immature people. They are people who don't have emotional tools to face a conversation they believe is going to be quite uncomfortable, which they often don't know how to approach. And many times they don't fully understand what has made them feel the need to distance themselves, to want to leave this here, to change their mind. They don't even understand themselves and don't know well how they are going to face the same. The questions you are going to ask them, what answers they are going to give you. They fear that. They fear the uncomfortable situation. Yes, they are terrified. So, because of that, they prefer. Right? There are two types here. There is the person there are these people who start to show a lot of reluctance to invite you to be the one, right? And there is the one who directly, remains silent. There is, for example, the person who says, I will no longer be active and limits themselves to responding when you reach out to them, but you realize that from that person, there is never any initiative to make contact. And so they trust, as I say, either they stop nurturing it to try to let it fade away on its own, or they directly remain silent. In both scenarios, this is cowardice and immaturity, merely cowardice and immaturity. And it's important that you understand it this way. Why is it so important? Because evidently this situation, this enormous rejection, is going to provoke a feeling of disappointment within you. However, you need to direct this disappointment in the right direction, because you will have to digest this disappointment. So you have two options. Either you understand what I'm presenting to you, and then take that disappointment about the situation and direct it towards the person who is acting this way. And you understand that their behavior does not reflect how you have behaved because, even if we assume you did something wrong and this person has a reason to want to end contact with you, they can communicate it to you. So the mere fact that the person doesn't have the guts, doesn't have the empathy or the ability to come and communicate whatever it is, expecting you to remain in that state of not understanding, is already disappointing in itself, regardless of what led to it. So as I said, you need to direct that disappointment towards that person and realize, because you probably didn't imagine they were that kind of person. Probably in your mind, you thought you were dealing with someone with much more emotional maturity, much more understanding, a much more considerate, more educated person. And I can think of 100,000 adjectives. So the disappointment has to be in saying, wow, Afa, I thought I was dealing with someone who possessed certain qualities, and they are showing me that they are a type of person, moreover, quite unreliable. Why? Because life is long. And I have to choose well what I have by my side. That is to say, When things are good, when things flow and it's beautiful, everything is very pleasant. But in life and in relationships, there will be moments of adversity, there will be crises, there will be uncomfortable situations, there will be, how to say it? There will be, let's say, adversities to overcome, right? And then anxieties may arise, situations may arise that lead us to effectively say, I don't know how to deal with it. And this person is now showing you their way of facing situations that overwhelm them. And that is to say, I don't face it directly. I hide my head like an ostrich in the sand or run away because I can't handle it. And believe me, in this life, you want someone by your side who faces the situation. You want someone by your side who can sit with you to have the uncomfortable conversation, who is capable of answering your questions. Believe me, you want that. So I want you to understand that disappointment, in this case, needs to be directed in the right direction. Because otherwise, what happens? When you don't direct disappointment in the right direction, you direct it towards yourself. All that disappointment comes to you and lowers your self-esteem because you feel that you haven't acted as you should, that you've done something wrong, that you are not worthy of love, that how you must be for this person, as I explained before, to show you such disdain, by not even giving you the importance to consider how this might affect you. And what is the next and most likely thing to happen to you, which is also completely normal? Well, evidently, this situation is clearly unfair. I repeat, anyone that is, let's not get confused. Any person has the right to live our life when they see fit, for the reasons they deem, based on how they feel. Whether we understand or find their choice plausible or not, that's how it is. And we have to accept that and we have to respect it. But evidently, you also have the right for someone you've dealt with to have the consideration to communicate with you. Their intentions to communicate. The fact of saying, look, not anymore, it's only fair. So of course this situation is clearly unfair. What happens in the face of injustice? Well, you feel like complaining, raising your voice, explaining, detailing why it is so unfair, making the other person see what they are doing. It's like saying, if I stay silent, the other person will have the impression that they are getting away with it, that they are leaving calmly and that this doesn't affect me or matter to me, or that I haven't even noticed or anything. I understand this, but indeed, and you are seeing it in me, I am going to encourage you that even though your emotion and desire to act are justified, I will explain why. And I understand it. I am going to explain why I will encourage you not to do it. And there are several reasons. First of all, many times, we are dealing with people who do not deserve our actions. And when you are feeling bad, you don't care. When you're feeling bad, the only thing you want is relief at that moment, right? So obviously when you have a lot inside, and when this also generates anger and frustration, right? Because during that waiting and anxiety, your emotions are not going to be stable. This is going to cause, obviously, agitation and instability within you. So what you want is to get back on solid ground. In other words, what you want is to feel relief again in some way, right? So if the instability was caused by a lack of communicating, even if in this case it's to express what you have inside, even if sometimes it's to attack the other person, or simply to show them how badly they are doing, you believe it will bring you emotional relief. And yes, but believe me, this emotional relief is very short-lived, and I'm going to explain why. At the moment you write, and if you want, you can do that part. If you want, take and write everything you feel like saying. Write how you are seeing and contemplating this situation, what emotions it is causing you, why this shouldn't be like this, how this person should have behaved, all the disappointment you feel towards the other person. All of this as an exercise is very good. I mean, write it down. I actually encourage you to do it, but don't send it. Why? Because the moment you send it, a person who doesn't know how to deal with a situation that overwhelms them, who doesn't have that capacity, will never offer you a response that you find satisfactory. They probably won't give you any kind of response, which can cause you to become even more upset. Or if they do give you a response, they won't engage. They won't engage in the way you'd like, meaning they won't fulfill that emotional need you have to understand, to have things explained to you. At most, if you're lucky, they might apologize, right? Like, well, I'm sorry. And they probably won't even apologize the way they should, which would be, I'm sorry, for behaving so badly and not offering you an explanation, nor communicating that I intended to stop talking. You're right, I should have been more. No, no, no. They'll probably say something like, I'm sorry that this makes you feel that way. As if saying you're the one who's feeling bad. So because of that, what happens? This person who is acting this way doesn't deserve it. They don't deserve to know how they make you feel. They don't deserve to see all that effort on your part, all that turmoil. The only thing they deserve is for you to be disappointed in them, for you to realize all of this, to realize what kind of person they are and be disappointed. So because of that, write if you want, but don't send it. Look, only once in my life, which was in a relationship with a narcissistic profile. But at that time, I didn't know it. It was a short thing, luckily for me. But well, it was the typical histrionic narcissist who comes, love bombs you, takes you to meet their family, their friends on trips, out to eat, never leaves your side, fills you with compliments, makes you feel incredible. And indeed, with all that love bombing at that moment, I didn't realize it because I had always had healthy relationships that we hadn't formalized. We hadn't had the conversation about being a couple, but it wasn't necessary. It was like having the person with me 24 hours a day. What need was there to put a label on it? Of course, when things progress and the narcissistic games start, that's when this person begins to emphasize less. The fact of friendship, that indeed we are not a couple. In the end, this didn't last long. Because honestly, even though I didn't know what kind of person I was dealing with, I have to say that I handled the situation with a lot of willpower. I was quite firm. I stood my ground well, and I didn't allow them to play with me. I mean, I still think about it in hindsight and say how well I handled it on that occasion. But it's true that I've spent some time within myself, which gave that feeling of injustice that I mentioned to you before. I did something I had never done before and haven't done since, and I'll tell you why. But I drafted an email. It wasn't even an email. I mean, I wasn't reaching out to ask this person for anything, much less to go back or anything like that. But it was a bit, as I say, that need to let them know, hey, there are things about you that seemed very inconsistent to me, that seemed very poorly done. And that you should take a look at them, right? The email goes along those lines, right? I remember that I wrote it and hesitated a lot without sending it. But finally, one day I must have been in a certain mood and I sent it, right? And indeed, as soon as I sent it, a part of me was like, there you go. That part of me that deep down had that need to protest because I hadn't completely gotten over it yet. Because even though I had handled it very well and had been very decisive, there was a part of me that hadn't gotten over it. And it was that part of me that was still demanding, right? Demanding because of how things had been. Because one demands until they get over it. But you know what? That in the end, you get over it. And that sometimes we also have to think a little about the me of tomorrow. Because when I'm not well, I want to act. I want to do whatever it takes to feel better. We never think about the me of tomorrow. And we have to have that little bit of consideration as well. And when I look back, what I regret most about that story, because in the end I learned I also lived good moments, is that damn email. Why? Because that person didn't deserve it. By the way, I didn't get a response, as was predictable and as happens in most cases. Because although I only sent that email once in my life, I've seen so many emails of this type, and I've seen that. Very disappointing responses of all kinds and the lack of response. So I didn't get a response, and somehow, well, if I could go back, I wouldn't have sent it to this person because they didn't deserve it. Another reason why I clearly advise you not to contact this person, nor complain, nor let them know, nor try to make them see. It's because if strategically what you want is to hear from this person again, and believe me, in terms of repairing the damage this may have caused to your ego, to your feelings, it's preferable even if you do things right and end up disappointed. Instead of saying what I want is to close this off, believe me, you will feel much better if you allow this person to contact you again and then let them know, hey, look, I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. That you leave my life like this without giving me any kind of explanation. There's nothing more for you to do here. That closure, even if it takes a little longer to arrive, will make you feel much better than if you rush and propose a closure yourself. Why? Because I have to understand one thing, especially if in the end I want to continue with this story. And here we have to evaluate, let's see. I've told you before, I believe you want someone by your side who is capable of facing situations. But let's see. It's true that sometimes along the way we meet people with whom we might grow emotionally. Situations can fluctuate. And obviously there are different cases. That is to say, it's not the same. I mean, the greater the degree of connection, the greater the grievance. It's not the same as if you had been talking to someone for a while. Thank you. Maybe you have also been talking to more people and that person with more people. And at a given moment, due to their circumstances, they distance themselves and then return. It's not nice, it's inconsiderate, it's not the right thing to do. But obviously it's not the same as if you tell me, Amanda, I've been sleeping with someone for 3 months and suddenly this person stops looking for me. Or I've been dating for a year. That is to say, the greater the degree of commitment, the greater the grievance. And with a greater grievance, we should indeed be more decisive and realize, I shouldn't allow it. Here, I shouldn't allow for a return or, in less serious cases, analyze and truly weigh. If I want, if I don't want. But if I want, I also have to show the person how I want to be treated. And there have to be consequences. But the consequences, everything is negotiable and everything is, how to say it, discussable, so to speak, though I think this term doesn't exist. At the moment when the person is open to communication. That is, a person who has made the decision, for whatever reason, that at this moment they don't want to communicate with me and lacks emotional tools. To face an unpleasant conversation, if I send a message in which this person sees that I am emotionally very affected, very angry, I've blamed them for things, if later on this person feels less overwhelmed or changes their mind, obviously before reaching out to me, they will remember my message and think, wow, I'm scared, I don't want to contact the person because I know this person is really angry. If not, there's a part of this person, thank you, a bit delusional and a bit childish, that might think, if this person hasn't reacted, maybe it didn't bother them that much. And then that somewhat naive part, so to speak, at the moment when they say, well, I don't feel that way anymore. Maybe I want to know about the person, I miss them. That part of believing that maybe this didn't bother us makes them more likely to contact us. But if you send that message seeking justice, right? The person will remember it. And they will say, no, I know that Pepito and Julita are very angry. And I didn't say I didn't want to talk because I was scared. Well, now I'm afraid to contact the person because I know they're angry. So that's why you shouldn't deprive yourself of the satisfaction of being sought after again and being the one to decline. Or in the case that you're not sure what you want to do, if you think there might be options and you want to communicate, thank you. Don't send anything because that will make the person not dare to contact you again. So, to recap. Reasons why this person might not be contacting you. Many. From those that have nothing to do with you. A person who was communicating with you but was still hung up on an ex-partner. The ex-partner reaches out and comes back. 2. Reasons that might even interest you. And please don't cling. With tooth and nail to this, but it's true. Many times, especially in men, in women, I haven't seen it, or I've barely seen it, but in men, yes. When they are starting to get emotionally involved, even when they are about to fall in love, sometimes they get a rush and take some distance. And there it's important, moreover, that you allow that little space and don't interfere, because the way you react influences. And be careful, I've talked about this many times on the channel, this can be allowed once, not 300 times, from the person who is doing it because they are testing you. That is, a person perhaps with a manipulative profile who wants to see how much it destabilizes you, to suddenly stop hearing from them and is analyzing what they are going to do with you if you are the type of person profile that interests them. Because they want someone devoted, they want someone who, when they distance themselves, sees that the other person searches for them, becomes desperate, begs. In other words, the person who indeed, as I was saying, merely then has lost interest and doesn't have the tools and doesn't want to face communicating it to you. That is, there are 100,000 reasons, but no matter how much you think about it and cover it, you can't figure out which one it should be. So since I can't control the other person's part, here I have to limit myself to controlling my own area. What is my area? The first thing I invite you to do is to get out of waiting mode, with hopes like maybe, I don't know, their car tire got punctured in the middle of the mountain and they have no coverage. It's not likely, okay? So stop waiting, don't wait. Be disappointed with who you need to be disappointed with. Write down, document how you are feeling. Effectively write why this is not fair and why you don't deserve it. And I'm telling you, you don't deserve it. You don't deserve it. Therefore, be disappointed with that person. But don't be disappointed with yourself. Don't do it, please. And try to focus on yourself as soon as you can. Don't seek to stabilize yourself by getting in touch with those who have destabilized you. Instead, be your own grounding wire. Be with people who love you, do activities that make you feel good, take care of yourself, and work on stabilizing yourself. It's a good exercise. It's a good time to show yourself that you are the pillar of your life and that you can count on yourself. And if you achieve it, it will give you a lot of self-confidence. Instead of allowing this situation to lower your self-esteem, you can use it to make your self-esteem grow. And then, don't worry, because in most cases, if you don't react in any way, there are many chances that this person will contact you again. And of course, I recommend that you don't sweep the dirt under the rug. Your life is not an open house where we come and go and... No. One thing is not reacting and not demanding justice, and another thing is not setting your boundaries later. That is to say, they are different things. Well, I hope this video has helped you, that it serves you. If you liked it and you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, of course, I invite you to do so, to hit the bell, because I would love for us to see each other again very soon. And until then, as always, I send you a big kiss.